Okay, so here's the chute. It's been rebuilt by Heath. He's a friend of ours. He does a lot of work for us. He can do anything from build a well house to rebuild a sheep loading chute. So he's done more than that. He's gotten it back to the way it should be originally. He's added pivot point here so the chute is actually attached to the frame. So when you crank on it, the front will raise up, the back will come down, and it'll pivot the nose towards the ground. So with a semi for loading sheep, there's usually more than 2 decks. So like my one trailer has 3 decks in the nose, 4 in the center, and 3 decks on the rear. What that means is when you go to load that top deck, it's very high off the ground. So you have to have a chute that's long enough that when you're on that top deck, the angle isn't so extreme that the chute can't physically climb up it. So this chute is just about perfect. So what we did, we added new boards on the sides. He fixed the front, which was wrecked. We left the front with, rather than just removing this hitch actually opens up. It releases right there and opens up so that you can obviously use it. You don't want this hitch in your way. This opens, and then this side opens. Now you're ready to load. We left this one on this side so you have the option from pulling it from either direction. This is actually the rear of the chute, and it's heavier than the front. So that was the problem when they were towing it. They were towing a rear heavy chute and it was wobbling a lot, and that's why the front got broken. So what we did is he added a receiver to the, technically what's the rear of the chute, and just a regular type 2-inch ball hitch. And what that means is now when we pull this, we'll pull it from the rear, which has all the weight, and it should pull much better even behind a lighter pickup. Shouldn't wobble nearly as much. So it's a much beefier chute now. He put a new floor in it when we first bought it, or first got it a couple years ago from Krebs Sheep Company. So the floor is good. It's just needed a little TLC. We were always going to replace the boards when we got around to it, and then when it got crashed, boy, that gave us plenty of opportunity to get around to it. The one thing I see that I might change is come and cut these off here, because having something sticking up in the air like that when you're working sheep, you might run your arm down here to push a sheep off the chute and catch your hand on this. So that's the first time I noticed that. So I will probably cut those off. And the way it works is you've got a hand crank here, and you crank on that. There's a pulley on top here. The wire goes down underneath the chute. There's 2 pulleys, one on either side, and then the wire comes back up and connects onto this side. So when you crank on that, it actually picks the chute up, which is nice, because our normal chutes we carry on our trucks, you have to manually pick them up, and it usually requires at least 3 people. So pretty inconvenient if you're trying to haul, with just a couple of you. So this has got new tires, and we repacked the bearings when we first got it last year. So anyway, there is the reconstructed chute. Now, I've been told that this is built originally in the 50s, but
It's from the Willamette Valley. I think Reed Anderson owned it at one point, and then he somehow Sky Krebs ended up with it, and it was just sitting down in a ditch at his place. I was there one day doing something and I saw it, and so I claimed it, with Sky's permission, of course, and we brought it home, and it's just been kind of an ongoing project. But it sure is handy to have two chutes, one at either end, especially if you're doing multiple loads in a day. You don't have to break the chute down, load it on the truck, get there, unload the chute, set it back up again. So you just put this chute on one end, then you have your truck chute on the other, and bing bang boom, load them, unload them, repeat. So there you go.